things all over.
We ready, Charisse? Yes. Right. I will call the meeting to order. And first, I want to welcome our new council member, Jim Campbell, to the group. Glad to have you.
Thank you.
And I will ask Charisse to call the roll.
Good afternoon, everyone. So Heidi Kelly.
Kelly, oh, yeah, here.
Are you sure? Michael Cashman,
Present.
Jim Campbell,
Present.
Anna Lamb, Christina Ugel. Here. Lima Gooding. Chris Rosenquist.
Here.
And Sid Garrett. Here. And Jim Clark will not be here today.
So we have a quorum.
Yes.
Okay, then we will, first thing on the agenda is to approve, our minutes from our February 10th meeting. I'll take a motion. And second. And, okay, so Sid moved and a second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and then we will approve today's agenda. I'll take a motion. Chris, second.
Second.
Sid, all in favor?
Aye.
Good. And then we will move on to Dr. Agnetti's report.
Thank you, Heidi, and good afternoon, everyone. It's great to see you. And also, Bridget, it's nice to have you on via Zoom. Pop in. So I know we've got a very special event later this afternoon, and I'm looking forward to the opportunity to celebrate the impact that Marty Mannix has had on our campus. So I will not spend much time talking about that. No, today. Okay. So again, good afternoon. I just want to say thank you again for your incredible service to the campus, to our at any time, and probably in our future or our current situation, your advocacy and your support of the campus is well appreciated and very important. And again, there's no question about your commitment to our institution and to our students, and it's deeply appreciated. If you're keeping track of time, we're now in the final 5 weeks of the spring semester. Please share the spirit of progress that is on our campus. It remains strong at this point in time. So thanks very much. Today's update is going to touch on several new developments, including student enrollment and retention, continued movement on the Clinton Community College co-location, our recent work to expand partnerships and access, and an update on some key events, upcoming moments for the Cardinal community. So let's talk a bit about enrollment. The Office of Institutional Effectiveness recently completed our spring census and confirmed that we had a 2.8% increase in our enrollment compared to this time last year. Our spring 2025 enrollment stands at 4,254 students, and that is comprised of 3,613 undergraduate students and 641 graduate students. Even more significant is our increased student retention rate, continue to reflect the dedication of the entire fall 24 to fall 25, so just this past fall to now. The retention rate among all full-time matriculated undergraduate students sits at 93.3%, which is a phenomenal rate. And our first-year students are retaining at a 90.6% rate, and our transfer students are retaining at 91.6%. And those are numbers that we have not seen since 2016 and 2017. So the efforts, essentially the encouragement that we have in our campus through our staff, through our faculty and our professionals, it's having an impact on helping students stay the course and achieve that degree. With respect to future enrollment, we're seeing meaningful gains in the fall 25 recruitment. Undergraduate deposits are up 24% compared to this time last year, and graduate deposits are up 23%, with acceptances and applications tracking well ahead of both categories compared to fall. The momentum, again, reflects a collective effort by our admissions team, faculty, support staff, and student leaders to create an environment where students want to be here and feel that they belong. That's essentially the essence of the why. On the academic front, our academic planning steering committee, which will be co-chaired by Faculty Senate Chair Bridget Heine, who's on Zoom, and Provost Dr. Marcus Ty, is finalizing its membership and preparing for the May 22nd Academic Planning Summit. This work is essential as we shape the future of SUNY Plattsburgh and ensure that we remain responsive to evolving both workforce and students. And also, as of April the 1st, the Office of Sponsored Research and Programs has returned to academic affairs, its original home, to better align with what peer university practices are and to strengthen our support for funded faculty research, scholarship, and creative activities. On the budget outlook side of things, as many of you know, as of today, the New York State budget process is still in progress. The last I read yesterday was that it may not happen until next week or a little bit later. But we remain in close communication with SUNY Central and our state partners. Current proposals in the state budget that impact SUNY include increasing the TAP gap funding, continued support for new faculty hiring, ongoing support for the ACE Student Success Program that we have on campus, and significant investments in capital maintenance and students. On our campus, we're continuing our fiscal year 25-26 budget development. Budget templates have been submitted for several funding categories with more due in the coming weeks. And again, we remain focused on a strategic resource allocation, sustainability, and growth. And I'm pleased to report that we continue to be a fiscally responsible, or in other words, financially stable campus. A bit about the Clinton co-location. The initiative continues to advance with tremendous progress achieved just over the past 2 months. Red K Hall has now been fully vacated and it's under renovation by the State University Construction Fund for Clinton's arrival in August. And the Canadian Studies program will complete its move to the house across the street from Kehoe at 102 Broad Street. And a note that I just saw from Megan by the end of May. So we're on track. As part of SUNY's broader regional workforce development strategy, Clinton's nursing program and EMT programs will now relocate across the street to Champlain Valley Hospital, Physicians Hospital, and the Institute for Advanced Manufacturing is eyeing the move to CV Tech. And those details are still being worked on. A bit about student engagement and community impact. This spring, we welcomed two groups of 8th graders to campus through our I've Been Admitted to College or IBAC program. It achieved our goal of reaching 1,000 North Country students this year. This initiative introduces, as I mentioned in the past, middle schoolers to college life, and it's led by our SUNY associate, Andrea Netti, with support from numerous MST students, admissions, staff, faculty, and other members of our community. The enthusiasm of these students and the impact we're having on their future aspirations really speaks volumes about the role of this campus in the region. Since its inception, IBAC just 4 years ago, we have now hosted 2,750 students. This is an amazing number. It's 2,750 students that would not have visited us like this. So it's a great program that I'm proud that was successful. I recently hosted a pizza with the president. I'll do so later this month. It's a student-focused event that creates space for what I call candid conversations about campus life. Students are not shy and they do talk to me about all aspects of life on this campus. These dialogues really help shape the way in which we respond to student needs and keep our decision-making very grounded in the lived experience. Instead of asking, do we know what students are thinking? It's really easy to say, I've sort of lived experience as to what the students are thinking about. On health and counseling on campus, our Student Health and Counseling Center has delivered nearly 4,500 in-person and virtual appointments this academic year, and it continues to meet the critical healthcare needs on our campus. The New York State Department of Health recently audited 100 student immunization records and they were randomly selected. And I'm pleased to report that our campus received full compliance, in fact, 100%. And many thanks to our Student Health and Counseling Center team for ensuring access to care and regulatory excellence with respect to the New York State requirements. And again, as I mentioned before, I want to remind everyone that we're dedicating the Marty Mannix 64, Class 64 meeting room this afternoon at 4 in the front commons. Marty served SUNY Plattsburgh in the broader community for more than 6 decades. And I believe this recognition is a fitting tribute to his life of service and as an unwavering cardinal in his dedication to this university. We're also looking forward to the second annual North Country Celebration in May, which will recognize outstanding regional alumni and scholarship recipients. The event is a chance to reflect on the impact that our graduates are making and the generosity of those who continue to invest in student success. And as a reminder, this year's recipients are Nicole Borland, class of 07, Angela Brown, class of 76, Randy Giltz, class of 87. And because we had a no-show last year, and I don't mean that in a pejorative way, Bonnie Lee Black will be here this year to receive her recognition. I also want to talk a bit about Queensbury. As part of our broader efforts to foster a more inclusive and a student-centered campus, we're continuing to elevate the visibility and belonging of the Queensbury campus. These updates that we're now providing provide more consistent branding, more frequent messaging about Queensbury in our communications, and refinements to student email outreach to ensure clarity and relevance. And I thank Heather Haskins and her team for taking the lead on this. The goal of this is simple: one university, two campuses, united in vision. A few final words I want to just pass to you as well. In light of the national conversations that surround higher education, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and academic freedom, I want to take a moment to reaffirm that SUNY Plattsburgh will not, never will compromise our values. We continue to champion access, the importance of inclusion, equity, and opportunity, and it remains foundational to the third pillar of our next strategic plan. For the next strategic plan. And most importantly, we're not going to deviate from SUNY's values. Since the founding of our system, the mission of SUNY has been to provide all the people of New York educational services of the highest quality with the broadest possible access, fully representative of all segments of the population. And these are not political ideals, they are human ones, and they remain the foundation of who we are. Like I said earlier, this is part of who we are, and this is our why. I'm pleased to welcome James Campbell this afternoon, class of 76, as our newest member of council. Jim is a longtime advocate for SUNY and a former director of legislative relations. Jim brings deep knowledge of policy, student support, and higher education governance. And Jim, we're fortunate to have you here. So as we look forward to the final weeks of the semester, our calendars are beginning to be both full and in some cases getting fuller. As I said, commencement is on May 17th. It'll mark the culmination of many stories of resilience and achievement. That same week, we will celebrate Mental Health Awareness Month and National Nurses Appreciation Week, both important months and reminders of the humanity at the core of our work. So to our university council members, thank you as always for your time, your leadership, and your unwavering support of SUNY Plattsburgh. We're building not just a strong institution, but a stronger future for both students and our local communities. A proud past, a bright future is reflected in all we do, and we welcome your questions. Thank you.
Any questions for Dr. Ranieri?
Dr. Nguyen, my only question was great retention rates. Do you have a sense of where we like SUNY, like what's the what's SUNY's average or anything like that?
If I could guess inaccurately, I would like to say we're the best, but perhaps Karen, you might have some data.
So what was reported is the return rate. So that was the number of students that were here in the fall that returned in the spring, which is a little bit different than first and second year retention. But what we have seen semester over semester for the last 2 academic years is each semester we're seeing an improvement of our overall return rate and our first to second year retention. So I think we're probably right around the middle. You know, I like the president say, yes, we're the best, but there are some that are still doing it better than we are. But I think one of the things we have to be most proud of with all of that is that we really live our values about access to education. So we don't look like a UB student. We don't look like a Stony Brook student. We look at who we are, and that encompasses our values. So I think we have so much to be proud of that with our belief in access to education, that our students are outperforming where they were. And I think the fact that we're rebounding, you know, and we're finding rates that are back to the pre-COVID days, I think that says a lot about the overall commitment to our wraparound services that we've been giving students in and outside the classroom.
The important things are moving in the right direction. Great. Any other questions?
I too wanted to comment on the retention rate. Why do we lose 10% of our first time full-time students?
Yeah.
Is it financial reasons? Is it mom and dad at home? Or-
It's a combination of all of those things. It was always a driver. You always have those first semester students who struggle with homesickness or their academics or personal problems. So we know that particularly the issues of mental health were rising before COVID. And post-COVID, that's still a significant impact for our students. And sometimes they have to go home and work to support the family.
I would just add, so we have made some improvements in the Cardinal Foundation seminars, which has resulted in a decrease of a DEI rate from slightly over 20% to around 13%. And the first semester before for first-time students is when you would expect to see all these problems. And so, you know, we're really significantly working also on the academic experience and working with faculty to really provide, you know, heightened supports on the academic side. The students succeed in the first semester and starting to do that.
Just a note, for a long time, and I don't know if they still do that, but the SUNY centers were in a different category. They competed with each other in the comprehensive, so I don't know if they still do that when you're.
We still
because
compare,
it's such a different. world.
but even amongst the comprehensives, we're kind of in the middle.
Right, right. Oh, yeah, well,
like
keep
Cortland
track. That used to be my thing when I would come to these meetings. The older people would remember that. It's the retention, and I'm real with what's going on. Yeah. Good. Good stuff.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so we'll move on to my report. We need to, you have all the University Council members received the revised description of the Distinguished Service Award, which now will be called the Dr. George W. Angel University Council Distinguished Service Award. So you received that description and those updates, and there were no comments or questions turned over to the committee. So at this point, I will, I don't know if you have it in your, it's not in your folder. So can I read it? Okay, so the proposal was to break the concept of distinguished service into two separate awards. The first is a standard recognition award, which the purpose of which is to recognize individuals whose contributions have significantly advanced SUNY Plattsburgh through leadership, service, or advocacy. And the second award would be the University Council Medal of Distinction. The purpose of which is to be reserved for individuals whose transformative leadership and service have fundamentally shaped the identity, direction, or legacy of the university. So a higher standard and a far more award given less frequently. So with that, I will take a motion to approve the revisions on the standard recognition, Dr. George W. Angel University Council Distinguished Service Award. What that's.
First, I so move, and I really like to thank Mike. He did an amazing amount of work on this. Thank you, sir.
Second, so Sid. And then second, Christina's shaking her head. So Christina, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and then I'll take a motion to accept the creation of a new award, the University Council Medal of Distinction. Any?
So
Sid, so moved. Second, Anna, all in favor?
Aye.
And I would like to thank the committee, which was Michael, Sid, and Anna for their work on this and coming up with something that hopefully will be easier for a committee to, you know, define candidates who fit the descriptions that you've come up with. So
Can I provide one perspective? Because you asked, I think, a really great question as to like the medal version, like who do we see kind of like, you know, somebody that would have been in that category? And I'll use someone that is no longer with us, but I think would demonstrate to our community very well. Senator Stafford would have been an individual at that level, right? Not just distinguished service, but truly kind of a level upon a level of type of thing. And I just kind of put that out there from the committee's perspective as people are thinking about this. And this is not intended to be an annual event. I mean, an annual award. It's truly time to time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that, because I had that question. Okay, thank you. We'll move on to the next thing on my list is the ACT conference, which is October 17th and 18th, not 28th, as your agenda says. It's 17th and 18th, and it's in Albany. So I'd like you to be thinking about whether or not you'd be interested in attending. We have the funds to send 2 people with accommodations, meals, and registration. So if you are interested and able to attend, please let me know. Let me know. Shoot me an email. Our summer retreat is scheduled for July 22nd, 2025, and I'll be reaching out to you for ideas for sessions. It'll be at Valcourt again. So be thinking about some more in-depth topics that you might like addressed through the retreat. And we have our 25-26 University Council meetings set. Do we need to vote on those, Sharice? Okay, so they are for Monday, September 15th here, Monday, September 17th, and Monday, February 23rd. Those are typical dates. And then Monday, April 13th, in 2026, we will meet at Queensberry. We had thought about doing it now, but today is the dedication, so it didn't work out. But I think it's good once a year for us to get down and visit the Queensberry campus and interact with them. So I will take a motion to accept those meeting dates. Chris, second. Anna, thank you. All in favor? Okay. Oh, and the other thing is that I had the opportunity, Christina and I had the opportunity to attend the because that's hard to say, equity advocates ceremony last week. And it was really a very nice event. And I want to thank Allison for coordinating that and coordinating that program, and for my advocacy medal that is sitting on my table at home that I mentioned. But it was much appreciated, and thank you for that. All right, we'll move on to divisional reports. Dr. Tai, Academic Affairs.
So we have not been waiting for an academic plan. As you can see, a lot of activity from all the different divisions, but I'd like to focus on the academic plan just very briefly. The last 7 months, I've been meeting with many different stakeholders individually, formally with Provost Cabinet, with Faculty Senate Chair, has been consulting with the Faculty Senate Executive, President's Cabinet. Very, very excited that we have a steering committee, which I think will really represent all of the stakeholders at the institution and consider all of the aspects of the student experience as we form an academic plan, academic portfolio, resources we have for faculty, also aspects of the student experience that affect how the different areas of the university integrate to allow our students to thrive and our faculty to thrive and our institution to be successful. And one that's very mindful of revenue and market changes, which are the insights that I hope to bring to the process. About half of the members of the 16-person steering committee will be from academic affairs side of the house, and about half from the other divisions of the institution, the president's cabinet. And so either themselves or representatives who again will really represent the totality, I think, of the student experience, academic experience. And then lastly, we will be meeting with many stakeholder groups, we meaning the steering committee, to really draw in a much broader perspective and having online participation as well. There'll be messaging, which Bridget and I were working on this weekend, which will be about to go out this afternoon or tomorrow morning to employees, which of course we'll be sharing with the University Council. But we'll be meeting with multiple groups of students, as well as having, of course, a student representative on the committee We'll be looking at residential North Country students, community North Country students, inquiry students, online students who are local, online students who are distant, undergraduate students, graduate students, residential students who are from outside of the North Country. To really try to understand the experience what they want, and then external partners, including the University Council, and perhaps we might have some time with retreat as well.
Well, I was wondering, that was one of the questions I had. Would it be appropriate to use the session of our summer retreat for that purpose?
Yes, that would be wonderful.
Research.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? Or about the other aspects of the report?
Yeah, you'll have got the report. Any other questions? Okay, then we will move on to institutional advancement. Anne?
So just a quick comment on the dedication that we're having this afternoon. Want to thank the council for, we can't dedicate space without, it's a real partnership between the university and the council and advancement and organizing these celebrations. And they really do help us celebrate, the history of the institution as well. So Harry Chapin and Paula Duke did a lot of work in organizing, the invitations and food and logistics in the space. Gina Bond took care of the plaque and getting the room painted so that it actually looks quite presentable. And Aubrey Brissett put together a beautiful program as far as the printed piece that people can take home. So it's I think it's something that my so very excited about that. Want to just share some new gifts and commitments to the university because they're quite unique, each one of them. We recently received $100,000 gift from the widow of Lawrence Gillette. Well, for some of you that I'm looking at Sid, because you always mention you've been involved for a long time, but Dr. Gillette started at the university in the 60s. So in 1962, he arrived as a professor in geology, and he actually was the first chair when the Department of Earth Science got formed. So it was really a transformational time for the institution as the sciences really began to expand. And eventually the Center for Earth and Environmental Science was created. But there's a beautiful story that Ashley Livingston wrote for the magazine, which tells a lot about Larry and his youth in Canada and how his Canadian education, I'm looking at Dr. Agnetti, how his Canadian education influenced his style of teaching. He had super high standards and always used to say to his students that, well, the public system in Canada has a little bit higher standard than the US standard in high school. So therefore, this is where I expect you to be at. But it's really a great story. He sounds like he was such a character. And the gift is going to support 2 new scholarships, one for students who have financial challenges in paying for their education, and one for students who perform incredibly well in geology. So it really hits at the heart in 2 ways. Tina Girardi, who's a member of our foundation board and previously was a member of the alumni board, just set up a new scholarship who will be a request in the future, but that will support nursing students who need financial assistance. Nancy Schultz just made another gift of $50,000 for emergency scholarships, and these are pretty unique. She always makes her gift in the spring, and it's all about this time period where students are registering for classes. And quite often, some students' balances get to a level where they're unable to register. They basically hit the wall in financing their education. That's what her gift is all about, which is providing emergency help so that they can continue. And then we recently received a grant from a private foundation for school leadership development program that Denise Samard and the education department worked on, and that was a $90,000 grant. So pretty
fantastic activity. We have 4.4 million in new gifts and commitments reported so far this fiscal year. Wanted to say just a couple quick things on Game on Forgiving because of it every year and it's phenomenal. So, and I'm looking at Karen McGrath because she and her family is a big part of the reason the Game on Forgiving campaign for athletics hit such new heights. So IA and athletics partners on this effort and raised more than 100,000 in new gifts for athletics. And the McGrath Family Challenge is what really fueled that amazing activity. So Karen's going to speak about that in a moment. But I did want to just share faculty and staff responded incredibly. We had 90 faculty and staff make a gift to Game on Forgiving. That's a new record. We also had 827 alumni donors, new record, which was an increase of almost 300 new alumni donors. So, I mean, we're just leaps and bounds here. We had 455 gifts in one day online. And I will say that there were a few people in the office that you could see the hair smoking. We had a new gift processing. It was a new staff member does gift processing, and it was her first experience with Game on Forgiving, and it was quite more than any of us had ever saw before. So it kind of was amazing the way Dave Gregoire, Gina Bond, Melanie Rochette, and everybody just kind of like you could see the wagon circling to try to help get through that first day because the coaches were on the phone every 5 minutes. Where are we at? Where are we at? Is my team going to win the prize? You know, so it's quite exciting. And parents, 182 parents. So student success, 1,438 individual donors at a total of 120,000 grades. And thanks to Karen and her family.
Any questions for Anne? Thank you. Okay. Strategic communications and marketing, Heather, anything, that you want to highlight from your report?
I think pretty much, I just did some of the higher level things that we're really going down on, this quarter. I think the other value of this team is that it really touches each division and has the opportunity to work with each division. So there are times when we lead and there are times when we kind of respond to the needs. Two interesting sort of initiatives that I didn't think that seem minor, but they're quite significant. So Mascot Madness we did really well this year. We did much better than I thought we would. I thought we were going to lose in round one. So I had to buy people coffee. So that was expensive. And then we did a Vergi. And I highlight those two events because I think that we always talk about campus life and really wanting to retain students and boost morale and create community. And so I think this is a place where even the marketing team is getting a little bit more comfortable that, we've got the website, we've got our digital, we've got our social, we've got our print materials, and those are pretty tight and pretty solid. And we continue to grow those with Karen's area in particular and Marcus's area. But it's these nuanced experiences that we try to create for the community that I think really are going to have an impact on our retention. We get students here and then we have to continually re-repeat. And so these are the moments that I think create memories, create experiences and stuff. So I am really pleased with what we've been able to boost in terms of our internal communications progress, being able to add that position. I think the Optus signs, I mentioned them in here, but they're going to be TVs and they're pretty much installed in all of the academic buildings. So we're going to be able to do digital messaging in each building, TS, and so I think that's going to have a really significant impact on what we're able to do because we know they're not reading digest necessarily. They're, it's haphazard. So this will be kind of having an impact on audience and to push that messaging out more effectively.
Yeah, there was a time I remember when SUNY used to do a marketing at the state fair. And we were always encouraging them to do not just the state fair, but also do the track season in August, because there's a lot of people that come see the track who aren't necessarily New Yorkers, but who are out of towners and then the like. And I don't know if that's ever crossed your threshold to do something or participate with other schools who would be interested in doing that kind of a marketing. And it's a finite period of time also.
Right.
And it's over 6 weeks. So I look at it.
Well, that's a great thought. My prior agency, we did the state fair and you get a lot of people and a very diverse crowd. So I will check into that. That's never crossed my desk, but it's definitely worth checking. Thank you for that.
Anything else for Heather? All right, move on to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Allison.
Good afternoon, everyone. So just a few highlights. I wanna, just recognize that April is Sexual Assault Awareness and Prevention Month. And under the leadership of our Title IX coordinator, Kimberly Erlin, we've just been having some really phenomenal programs on campus. And I often say that when students are more aware of and educated about the implications of sexual assault, dating violence, domestic violence, and stalking, it makes us a safer and a healthier campus. Obviously, looking at Clary reporting and campus safety reports is one of the things that goes into decision-making, whether or not it's for families or individual students. So just, I wanted to list some of the phenomenal programs that are still forthcoming, including a Take Back the Night event, which will be a wonderful community event, just for our students, employees, community members. And then I also just wanted to I brought some extra copies of the Cardinal Points newspaper. We often can laugh, sometimes when our students might have an article that we might feel is very critical of us or sometimes doesn't get it right. And get it right can be very subjective. But they wrote a very phenomenal article about the Teal Quad event, which also shows, I think, especially for this year, how students have really taken ownership for that event. I think while we take the leadership for planning this year, we saw an increased number of students who hosted their own tabling. And then also to recognize our students and our wonderful counseling education program. And these students have really, I think especially this academic year, played a really critical role in getting hands-on, like practicum experience work, working with their own peers. So again, I brought a few of those so that you can take a look at it. Other things I just wanted to mention, we have in the field right now, so Title IX working specifically with institutional effectiveness, what is called a sexual prevalence survey, and this is coordinated through SUNY Central every 2 years. It's a survey that's designed to stay in the field for 3 weeks. And so instead of wondering, are we hitting the mark around prevention education and reporting in Title IX, it's a way for our community to also add feedback. And so the survey remains out for about a week. And that goes to students and employees. And for anyone that's interested, all of our previous surveys are also posted on a biannual Outlook basis on the website. So you can take a look at those. Just wanted to highlight our Truth, Racial Healing and Transformation Center that work with diversity, equity, and inclusion in our expeditionary studies department, because we hosted a pilot alternative spring break program. And we got about a third, less than the number of students we really started it. But we had a really good group of students. And I think at one point, when we looked at some of the activities, we said that we couldn't have squeezed more students into the activities. But the alternative spring break program focused on students who either didn't have anywhere to go over the spring break or were nervous about going. And we did get some international students who decided that they didn't necessarily want to travel during that time. But we were able to showcase some of the good work of our faculty and students, again, who need practicum hours working in expeditionary studies. So we focused on rock climbing. We had an opportunity to patronize a local restaurant in the community, which was great. We had a optional activity focused on cookie decorating. And we were able to teach students about the skills related to kayaking and paddle sports, which our students don't always get to experience because a lot of times they leave the area for the summer. And we actually use Shazy Central Pool. It just so happened that one of the lifeguards for that session was also a recent graduate of our campus. So it's nice to just host programs like that where we're in the community, but also where we can see some of our recent graduates. And again, in that specific session, we were able to put kayaks in the pool to rent the pool out and to teach students those basic skills. And then a few other things I just wanted to mention that we are continuing to host our lavender ceremony, which is for our LGBTQIA plus students and allies, and also for families. And it's often recognized as a celebration to recognize many of our students who may be met with barriers and challenges, as well as our multicultural student graduation reception. And so you're invited to attend, but I also wanted to put it in my report because there was a wording related to the February 14th Dear Colleague letter that came out from the federal government that talked about programs like Black graduations being discriminatory. We have what is called a lavender reception or multicultural student graduation reception. And I will tell you, last year we saw the largest number of white students who also participated in that reception. And I say it because I had personally, even though we do not, both on the lavender reception RSVP as well as the multicultural student graduation reception, we don't ask students about their demographics. And the way that we advertised 2 years ago, we advertised through the registrar's office to specific groups of students. Last year, what we decided is that we advertised to every student that was graduating. And then in the May graduation receptions, we re-advertised to anyone in December who maybe didn't attend the graduation reception. And even recently in December 2024, we had some students that said, we're not going to participate in December, but we are going to come back and participate in May, or we're going to come back to graduation reception in May. And, you know, I often say that whether a student is a white student or they identify as an African-American student, even white students are not just white students. They might be Polish, they could be Italian, they could be Swedish Americans. And so we really are very inclusive, and we do welcome any student to participate in those reception ceremonies. And then just to thank you all as University Council. So Heidi mentioned it. I was just so grateful for whatever University Council members could participate. But we did recognize our employees who are equity advocates on campus. And about 1.5 years ago, we launched a bold goal and to have really, we want to get 100% of our full-time employees trained as equity advocates on campus. We're at about 1/4%, so right around 25% right now. So we do have a ways to go, but there's no harm in trying and seeing people who are equity advocates. So that translates to just a little over 200 employees right now who are trained. I think one of the things that has given us a lot of positivity about it is that we have full boards, whether or not it's our CSEA board. We have our UUP executive board as well as members. We've had nearly our entire university police department who has 3 different shifts that are equity advocate trained, and we've also customized training. And so while I appreciate the acknowledgement, I do have staff also, Mike Thompson, who is our affirmative action officer and coordinator of special project that works really hard on this. And I think what was also really exciting was to see people in the community that have participated in the training, including some people from the New York State Division of Human Rights. And it was also a really wonderful opportunity for us to recognize the good work of our University Council and your advocacy for us, not only on campus, but in the community. So for those who didn't come, you will see the little pouches with the cardinal birds on them. And then instead of just sitting it on your tablet, Kim, I wanted to introduce myself, so I introduced myself. a little bit, make sure that you
Shout
get
out.
yours as well, yes. And then, just one other thing I wanted to mention, and that is that, our campus was just represented at the 80th anniversary symposium for the New York State Division of Human Rights, symposium, which the focus was "We All Belong Here." And I listed some of the different sections in my report that were, hosted, but one that I thought was extremely important was the focus on, New Americans, which also includes, legal advocacy and access to, attorneys for people who are, maybe experiencing, concerns with their immigration status or revocation of status. So that is a big one. And then also, for some of you, you may have heard in December of 2024, there was a case that was litigated against, a landlord in Plattsburgh, and this was related to the, some of the security deposits that were not necessarily either given back to students or some things that were maybe not given back to other individuals. And so it's just really important to also be able to participate in a fair housing, workshop to see what New York State is doing and to see what additional resources, services, and support we can get for some of our students who aren't necessarily living in our, housing on campus, but living in the community, so.
Any questions for Alice? We'll move on to enrollment and success. Or fairness or anything that you want to highlight.
So I know our work time was quite extensive. We had a lot going on since your last meeting. But on the new student enrollment side, just a couple of updates. We are very fortunate that we're in a good position going into the fall. Right now, graduate admissions is at 291 deposits. But the great thing about that is that's 83% of our budget goal for grad students. But we set an internal goal that's much higher than the budget goal of to get us up to 440 new graduate students. And we're already 66% of the way there. And we're feeling really confident that we're going to be much closer to the 440 than the budget goal of 350. So that's what we did last year. And again, that's what helped put us over the top of exceeding our budget goal for overall enrollment. And right now, 38% of those students are online, but that number will grow to about 50%. And again, that's all tracking with recent history. On the undergraduate side, we're at 689 new deposits as of today versus just over 500 last year. Again, that's a really strong story for us. And that puts us at 51% of the overall goal for the fall. Right now, we're at 19% online students, and that will probably rise to about 22%, all in alignment with last year. And again, that mixed question still remains an important part of our overall budget discussion as it relates to not just tuition, but of course, our dorm revenue and our board revenue. But we're keeping a really close track of that. But again, our population is still at 88% New York State. So there hasn't been a lot of shift. But the good news is all fronts are good to go on that side. On the returning student side, as you know, this is an exceptionally busy time of year. Every student club organization is trying to get in all their last minute events. But this is the time of year that my areas are really tracking closely. What are those parameters that are going to give us indications for students who be returning or not returning? So we are paying very close attention to financial holds. So I'm very happy to hear about the new gift for those additional because that will really help us. But if a student isn't eligible to register, even if they'll eventually get there over the summer, it's not a good message that they're not registered before they leave and registered in classes that they need and they want. So we're working very closely across with financial services and all of academic affairs, especially our access and opportunity programs, to do everything we can to bond the student academically with next year. The other piece of that is what are we doing about housing? So as you know, we need to grow our number of students living in residence. But I observed in my 18 months here, we were not as intentional and proactive in getting returning students to get their housing stuff done. So this year we took on a very mighty task of how are we going to ensure that every student who was eligible for housing was getting registered for housing. And we did that not just on the returning student side, but on the new student side. And right now we have 1,283 students that have done both their housing application and their preference form versus 872 this time last year. And that doesn't mean every person who did a housing form is going to come in. But last year at this time, there were only 666 returning students who have done both tasks, and now we're at 950. So imagine if they are getting their FAFSA, they've registered for classes, and indeed they have housing, there is a higher probability that they will return and feel connected with the university before they even leave. So that's another strategy we put into place for this year. As the president mentioned, mental health and overall well-being still remains an issue for all of us. And so we are seeing exceptionally high levels of stress amongst our students. They're reaching out not just to health and counseling, we're doing a lot of events and activities that really are about de-stressing and giving them a lot of emotional support. It is just high stress, not just for exams. They're worried about finances. Our students are very concerned about what's going on with the national economy, and will their families be able to send them back to school? So that is a big thing. But on Friday, we held our Campus Out of the Darkness Walk, which is a campus walk dedicated to suicide prevention and stigmatizing of mental health. And last year, I'm told that 2 years ago, we had 60 walkers. Last year, we had 250, and this year we had 400. And so it really, to all my colleagues here, I appreciate that we made it into an institutional event. And that's really important. It just can't be a student success event. It is really everyone. And we had 400 people that represented all divisions of the university and the community, and we're exceptionally proud of that. We did a lot of outreach differently. I reached out to all my colleagues in the room, but we also went after affinity groups. We really worked with SA and all the access and opportunity program, fraternity and sorority life, athletics. And this is a cause that they take up in their own ways through their own organizations, but we came together as a university, and that was really rewarding for everyone. And Ann mentioned Game On for Giving, which, our athletes and coaches are very excited about. We told them that they needed to step up. If they wanted alums and community members and friends and family in the university to support them, they needed to do their part. And we had the highest participation of coaches that we've had in recent history. They really needed to own it. And our student athletes worked exceptionally hard. And it wasn't just our varsity athletes. Recreation came through and fitness. So again, this is not just about varsity athletics. It's about the overarching sense of physicality for our campus, which again, it all connects to mental health and overall well-being. But also during Game On for Giving Week, it was also National NCAA Division III Athlete Week. And we did a special opportunity to recognize our highest academic achievers amongst all sports. And we had an event honoring them, and they all got to bring a faculty or staff mentor that really influences their experience. And to see 18 student athletes and representatives from sports information and athletic training, all aspects, actually be celebrated for their academic achievements and to recognize and thank their mentors. It was really, for those student athletes, a really meaningful event. So we've got a lot going on, but we're headed in the right direction. I don't know if anybody has any questions for me. That's good.
What's our occupancy rate right now in the middle?
So this fall, we had 1,654 students, and then we moved it from 300. So we had like 1,550 students.
Percentage?
Well, depends on how you count it. So we have 2 buildings that are offline, so that's in our overarching number. And what we did in Friedenberg this year, because we had capacity, we converted a lot of doubles into supersized singles. That gave us about $212,000 of additional room revenue, and it met students' needs. So it depends on how you count those, but we have a long way to go to get back up to 100% occupancy.
Do you have a sense as to what the students are looking for to get to that 100%? What kind of services and programs that they?
Depends on campus. If you think about Whiteface and Wilson, which are our first year buildings, they're very traditional. You know, it's double occupancy, gang showers, you know, like long corridors. They like a lot more privacy now. So our suites always fill up fast. And they aren't suites that you may be thinking of. They all don't have individual kitchen facilities and things like that. So they're looking for a little bit more of a townhouse apartment kind of feel to it. But we're getting there, and we're really honing in on ensuring that students fulfill their housing requirement. I noticed that after COVID, there was a lot of relaxing of rules to help students. And now we're trying to gently reel it back in because we do have a 4-semester housing requirement.
Karen and I are excited to be working together with academic planning to look at the kinds of programs that might be more likely to attract the residential students. And it's one of the analyses that we'll be doing, because we know that reaching capacity, paying off the bonds is really essential to the institution. And it's not necessarily traditional aid, but you know, again, they're looking very creatively and we project out demographic changes which are projected to happen in the whole of the Northeast Metro corridor, not just New York State and the North Country, to try to attract non-traditional age students to residential environments. And so
Do you ever think you'd get to a Mr. Chips model with the faculty?
well, I mean, I there is a conference on the public-private partnerships, and you know, I think all options are on the table, but short-term, looking at the academic programs that will fill the best.
But we've looked at how do we expand our graduate student housing, but again, they want apartment style. We only have like 35 of our graduate students who live on campus, and a lot of them are in GA positions, so they can afford it. But I do think with a rising number of graduate students, we need to really think about what kind of different kinds of housing opportunities could be made available to them.
Any other questions?
I do have one more. So we received an email the other day about a student visa. Was it expired? Can we get some? I didn't know who was speaking on this, but I haven't heard it yet, so.
Yeah, so we were, when everything started happening around the country where students were being notified that their visas were being terminated or revoked, I started to have our global education office check every single day, every student immigration record. And so we on our own found the student whose record was revoked. They had not even been notified yet. So by us being proactive, we were able to get a hold of the student. We told the student prior to any notification, and that was just Friday. So as you can imagine, the student was like, what's going on? So we're trying to support the student in every way that we can. We're working with academic affairs to determine if there's a way for them to complete the semester through a remote option. We did welfare checks throughout the weekend of the student to ensure that if they needed any kind of other emotional support, proactively, the Global Education Office is creating some different seminar opportunities about staying in status, but we're keeping it really under the radar. We don't really want to bring a lot of attention to this. We need to protect the students' privacy and confidentiality. That was something they really asked for. And we're never notified as to the reason why. We've put the student in touch with resources that were provided to us by SUNY for immigration and legal support. They contacted them and did not find them very helpful. But we're reaching out to our own CVIS, which is the immigrant, the student visas go through that to see if there's other resources that we can provide to the student. The student just was notified yesterday because we've been meeting with the student every day. They finally got the email, and the email is not very specific. It talks very much just to the point of your visa has been terminated. Unfortunately, this email gives no time frame, so we were expecting it to say 15 days or 30 days. There is nothing in here, which essentially means it's effective immediately from what we can read. So we're meeting with the student, put them in touch with CVIS. We're working with Marcus, I said, around the academics. And my assumption, this is clearly an assumption to stay in this room, is I think once we figure out the academic side, I'm pretty sure the student will leave at that moment. Because if they don't leave, and it is effective immediately, then they could be picked up and face deportation. If they leave on their own, then they have a possibility to apply for reinstatement. So we are not legally allowed to advise the student. We're not immigration experts. But that seems to be where we are headed with this, but it's causing a lot of concern amongst our international students. They want to know, is it me? Who is it? So the campus gossip is like, who is it? Who is it? Who is it? And so that's making it very difficult for the student because they're hearing the chatter. And again, under FERPA, this is not directory information, so we can give no other.
So you said terminated and revoked, but there was no expiration. Is that true?
The student did not overstay their visa,
Okay.
so they are caught up in the current
That's what
administration.
things going around is that it was their issue because they let it expire.
That is a false rumor. That is a false rumor. The student, as far as CVIS, as far as entry and every semester of all of the proper reports, they were in CVIS compliance.
I would echo the community concern and I'll be somewhat fluid in the saying, concern just wanting to know what's going on. There is a lot of confusion on this. It probably will not be the only one that occurs in the coming weeks, months, and what have you. And I would strongly encourage the university to put out a updated information as is appropriate, maybe not the student's name, but there's just a lot of confusion about it. So just it's the talk of the town beyond just the talk of the campus. And I think people, well, it's not even just that. I mean, and we're a university. Knowledge is power. And I think appropriate knowledge can be very helpful just so people understand. So just to put that out there.
So Heather has been connected with communications at SUNY, and I don't know how you feel or the president feels about that ongoing communication on the topic.
Yeah, so they will not allow anything to go out from our campus if they don't. So the basic process is we draft something here. We were contacted immediately. I mean, that's message out Friday. Within less than a half hour, we had a reporter reach out, which I understand, but it's challenging when internally we're not being more careful. So that happened. I reached out to SUNY. I got the same statement that they are allowing other campuses to provide, which was that as of that moment, there were 29 students across system who were in this situation. I have asked for a more proactive statement to be released, so we continue to draft that in the parents area. We did get 2 more reporter outages today, so I sent those to SUNY for help or for some guidance on that. But it is challenging, and seeing it on Street Team over the weekend I reported 2 of the posts and they came down because it dissolves into hate speech because then everybody has an opinion. And I think our challenge is to remember that, some of us are struggling with this. For others, that's not always the case. And so we're trying to drive that middle line of being what SUNY is telling us, we're speaking for them, we're speaking through that one voice. And so
I just want to clarify where some of my concerns come from are beyond just the greater Plattsburgh region. When I was here as an undergraduate and then as a staff person, I had a lot of connections with individuals in the Caribbean. And I've heard from many of our students from there. Many of our students, many of our families, alumni still read local newspaper. And while we've invoked Plattsburgh street teams, I'm talking about WPTZ, I'm talking about the Press Republican. Knowledge is power, and I certainly understand that, but I guess what I would advocate for as a council member is say that this university council is asking for a more proactive approach. I realize that SUNY Central is going to make some of those decisions, but let it not be talk of the town, let it be, this is the situation. I mean, it's details. It's, again, not asking for individuals' names or anything like that, but people should know what the process is. I mean, it can be very empowering to say, hey, an individual, the school was proactive enough to let them know in advance. I didn't know that. I mean, that's helpful knowledge. That shows the university is taking a leadership role.
Karen, do we have many of our athletes in this category as an?
Not many. More of them are from Canada and
Well,
a few other countries.
Does
but-
that count as an international student in this context?
Yeah, I'm not sure, Michael, what other kinds of communication you would want out there. I just want to make sure I'm understanding when you say proactive, because that, you know, we're dealing with a person's life. And we really are not at liberty. Like, I know I revealed to you this, that it wasn't because of an expired visa. That is not our news to share. So
Well, because I think that is what I'm hearing people are questioning, because rumors are all, you know, this, well, crazy student didn't do what they were supposed to do. Well, you know, no, everything was as it is supposed to be. We're, you know,
As far as
dealing with the issue.
as far as CVIS compliance, all of our students that are here are in compliance with CVIS. If there's something else going on in their life that we don't know about, like we can't look into CVIS to see what the reasons were for what generated this.
Sure, but Karen,
That doesn't-
an example, and again, we don't have to get marred up in the bureaucracy, because I think you folks are taking a proactive, just consideration is. I think it's a powerful statement that you just made, that the university informed the student first, right? That was the first time that I heard that. That says actually that the university has their finger in the air, is kind of helping to navigate through things. Also that the student didn't get clarity as to what that looks like too, you know what I mean? Like, so just food for consideration. I'm not here to micromanage. I'm just giving you some of the word on the street. People are confused and people are anxious as well. And people from afar are also looking at this too, to say, you know, am I gonna get caught up in something that doesn't have a lot of details?
And added to that, we have so many people in the 3-county area, predominantly maybe Franklin and Clinton, that are employers that are dealing with this issue. And, you know, they need their farm workers, they need their apple pickers. You know, oh my gosh, there is a vast amount for our small, lowly populated area of people who are. And that's where I heard it. I got questions from a local dairy farmer who shares, you know, employees with an egg farmer. Because you don't farm eggs.
I'm not sure though,
Anyway,
how much beyond what Dr. Agnetti's statement the other day. I mean, I don't know how much more it says that student is being supported by, you know, the Center for Global whatever, and you know, that
we used to turn it all that, all appropriate paperwork is filed for all of our students or something like that, so that you don't get that. I don't know. I don't know. I see what you're saying.
Is this something that you have to check weekly now, or do you
We're
think
checking it
it's
daily.
daily?
When this started, we started looking at it a couple times a week, and then when it started really bubbling around the country, we do it every day. So we go through 150 individual CVIS records, and we don't get a trigger that tells us a student's status has changed. So unless you go in and look at every record, you do not know.
So it, to what Michael is saying, and I think what Sydney's trying to say also is that, are the students aware that this is what you are doing, who are proactively checking for them, so that they aren't getting some email that they're just.
They still have to do it themselves, and we even have, it's always been on our website to students that it is important for them to maintain their status and to be regularly checking. And they have been told that, particularly since January 20th, that it is also their responsibility. Because the email could have gone out where she got it before we checked. So it just was an issue of timing. And WCAX didn't get it right. CVIS is not a student group. So there's misinformation even in what the press is reporting. They said this student is part of this group. It's not a group. It's a federal agency, so.
And
We
are
are
updating, right?
working with Karen's area to be updating our webpage frequently, getting updates from the people. And it's just because you don't know what you don't know until this hits, and you don't know what angle it's coming from. So we're very clear on sharing, where we should be linking people both on and off campus to resources, and sharing some of this information, because it's kind of a new world that we're navigating in terms of, you know, what can happen.
Yeah, I was just gonna, oh, go ahead.
I just want to share with you, when I was studying in England, the immigration office checked our foreign students' attendance every day. So to make sure that the student has to sign the attendance every day. The moment the immigration office notice that the student didn't attend classes, you are deported
Yeah, because then.
on the spot.
Because you're technically out of compliance.
Yeah. No, I was a student in England, so I knew how the British how they did it, how they do it. That's it.
Allison, do you want?
Yeah, I was just gonna add also, one thing we haven't necessarily talked about here is the importance of just acknowledging that we also have mixed status families, and there are a lot of campuses that are just anticipating what might happen around graduation, right? Especially when the student, because many of our students have a status that's not necessarily questionable, or so we think, and can be American citizen, but they might have people who would be visiting them for graduation or coming up and moving them. And then in the process of moving or bringing a U-Haul or a truck up to move them, maybe if you get stopped or something and somebody run your license or immigration status. So it's also something that we should anticipate, if not necessarily on this campus, then at other places, we might be hearing about schools across the country that would be having some concerns, or people choosing to stay home, right? That would not normally go to graduation, so.
So we have some international graduates whose families may not even get visitor visas to be able to come to graduation this year. So that you're right, we have to think about it from so many different perspectives. For our mixed status families, we're very concerned that our students of mixed families will not be filing their FAFSAs, because you have to provide information. And if you provide and a parent, guardian, or caregiver is not a citizen, that could cue off some agencies. So it's a very complicated time. It's a very emotional time for our students.
So,
Want to say something?
so the last thing I'll just, I'm not gonna have the final word, this is gonna generate questions. There's a lot happening at the same time here. And the first thing I'll say is the message that was sent out on Friday was very carefully crafted. It was designed to be able to inform without raising the wrong flags. So again, paragraph number 1, the federal government is revoking student visas. You can't revoke a visa that's expired. So right then and there's just, I mean, I would say whoever's reading, read carefully, and the clues are all here. But most importantly, our focus is the student first. I understand that there's radiating concern. From my perspective, my number 1 job is to protect our students. I care about our students first, and then everybody else take a number like you're at the deli. And I don't mean that in a negative or a facetious way. Our students count the most. These are individuals whose lives are going to be changed forever. So we are working hard to support that individual or any individual. As we work through this process, we're providing guidance. We have restrictions. We can only do so much. But in the end, we want this student to have a successful outcome, however this turns out. And I get that there's a lot of other concerns that will percolate from this, but it's either false equivalence or conflation or incorrect overlap. Individuals who are on work visas are in a different category. All you need to do is just open up Ms. Google and type in student visa revoked, and you will see hundreds and hundreds of student examples across the country. We're now 700 students that have suffered this. In nearly every situation, it was the campus that discovered it. So you just need to just read a little bit. They're not, essentially, you just look at the screen and you come back 10 minutes later and the number is valid to not valid. So we're doing this as a proactive way. What I'm worried is that this will cause a bit of almost like a chain reaction as other institutions get hit. We provide the highest level of support to our student. I applaud Karen and I applaud Andy, all other folks in the health center. Mental health issues, student support, fear. Anna, like you, I came to the United States as an international student. It's on a visa. The word that I was told, do not get a ticket or get caught jaywalking, because they will send you home. So this whole fear of how tenuous you are as an international student, this is not new. I came here in '86, and I think there's still that same sort of, as an international student, you live with that fear of what's going to happen to me if I get sent home, and that's the biggest problem. So I know that we want to We want to say as much as we can. We have to be super careful, not to expose and or jeopardize students there. Students first, students first. So.
All right, we'll move on to administration and finance, Megan.
I will say I did submit a 5-page report, and in my file, it's only 3 pages, so I don't know if you all have the full 5-page report or not.
Great.
Okay, so it is a 5-page report, so maybe we can send out the report into clarity after the meeting. The things to highlight from there, as President Inietti said, we do not have a New York budget that has passed yet. I do have weekly office hours with Josh Shager, who is the new CFO. He made a statement recently. He also used to work for the New York State Division of Budget, so he has some great insight to this. So he is thinking that if the budget has not passed yet, it probably will not be until into May, due to the holidays that are coming up. So I will say that. I will say, if you're agreeable to it, the retreat date in July would be a good time to provide a budget update. The fiscal year is relatively closed. I can provide update of the full year and then the projection of the upcoming year. If that is something that you all would wish to hear about again, that would be a good timing for that.
Okay, good. Boy, this retreat's coming.
Moving into capital planning and construction, we have a lot of things going on. One of them is the renovation of our Algonquin dining hall, which will be our new admission center. That is a very aggressive timeline, I will say, and that is expected to be completed for June 2027. Happening right alongside that is the demolition of our residence hall banks in Adirondack. So that is still moving as planned. The meetings are going well, so we are moving forward, and that is a strong commitment from the SUNY Construction Fund and SUNY System Administration to get that project going very fast. That's very fast in the SUNY mode. An update to what President Inietti said regarding Canadian studies. It's not the end of May, it will be in the middle of May that they move. So right before, you're welcome, right before commencement is the goal. Now that move of that department is a little delayed from the rest of the departments that were vacated. Red King, as with any major construction and logistical nightmare of what we've experienced with this, we did experience an issue in the building that Canadian Studies is moving into with the heating element, and we had to wait for a part to come in, so that kind of delayed the whole process of getting Canadian Studies into that building because we couldn't heat because the temperatures were too low. We couldn't have construction workers in there because the temperatures were so low. So that is resolved, and the new date now for to have Canadian Studies into that facility is right before commencement. Other major, many projects that we're working on. So read them all once you get the full report. But we will be working on Myers this summer masonry repair. So what's important about that is we have very old masonry, and particularly on the Myers building, that causes a lot of leaks into the museum. So this project will fix that. So not only are the occupants of Myers very happy about this project, my facility staff are very happy about this project because they won't have to go deal with the continuous leaks of that project. Again, many projects are in place, but another big one is you'll see the replace of the high temp hot water priorities 1 and 4. And we've expanded upon that project because we've had, as you all know, some emergency repairs that have been in place. And in the middle of winter, that means we have not had heat for some of our major facilities, including dorms at some point in time. So that is moving forward to repair. We had a study done, and it's actually putting that study into action to repair our high temp hot water. So that's all the pipes in the ground leading to our central heating plant that heats all these facilities. So that is moving forward as well. We will be starting a campus-wide ADA study, and then once that study is complete, we will annually address issues identified in the plan. Another big thing is we're doing a facilities master plan. We'll have a consultant selection this summer, so that will be particularly important to go along with our academic planning and strategic planning to have that facilities master plan. Our last facilities master plan is over a decade old, so that information isn't necessarily relevant to our current facilities. We did have an ITS study done a little while ago, and now we are putting that study into action. So we have identified 2 projects to begin with the ITS master plan in the very near future. So that again, will address those things annually. And then the big projects we're trying to get funding to fund those initiatives. One for your all, so that you all are aware, this is not on my report, but we put forth a big project to try to get funding from SUNY Construction Fund for the renovation of our Angel College Center that is competing against all the other SUNY institutions. So if you are in the position and have the opportunity to advocate for funding for that project, wherever you are, here or out in the world, I would appreciate that advocacy. I was just telling President Yenny that I read an article about Binghamton University having the ability to put in water slides and pools on their student center, and I'm trying to get our student centers infrastructure from the 70s updated, ADA compliant, and meeting code. So the inequities there are relevant and upsetting to me that we have to work this hard and advocate this hard and still probably will not receive this funding, but I'm hopeful that we may. So if you do have the ability to advocate for something, please know that this is going in front of the SUNY Construction Fund and the SUNY Board of Trustees and the Chancellor. So if you have any influence in advocating for that, that is a huge project and would be very beneficial to this campus. Other items, internal control, we are working on our required ethics and compliance training across our campus. I will say that the administration and finance division, for the first time in administration and finance history, have 100% compliance in their ethics training for 2024. So I'm pretty happy about that. That was a challenge in and of itself. So those are the highlights from the report. But you can have the full report at a later time, but that's what we have going on now. And as President Getty said, we're still compiling templates from the campus make our next year's budget. We will still be actively doing that, and then whenever the New York State budget is passed, I will input those items and what they need.
Any questions, Jim?
What do you mean, Megan, when you talk about the campus school going up for bid? I'm sorry, the campus store. What does that mean?
Oh, so our current bookstore is Bullet. So every so often we put out an RFQ, so a request for other vendors to bid on that project. So we could, if their terms and conditions and pricing, more importantly, are better than what Follett currently offers to the campus, then we have the opportunity to get newer or improved services and better pricing from a different vendor.
So I assume that having it run by a vendor was better than having the FSA or auxiliary services run it?
Yes.
It was.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else?
Oh. I'm guessing when we designed this new admission center at Algonquin, there will be parking made available, and that's part of the design process.
So those are part of some of the conversations with the demolition of banks in Algonquin. So that is part of that conversation. Again, the complete design of that project is not solely up to SUNY Plattsburgh. So the SUNY Construction Fund weighs in heavily on those decisions, but I do know that Bob Trumbley, who's my head of capital construction, has brought that to their attention and the need. And I know Karen is heavily involved in the design of that as well. And I'm sure has brought that to their attention.
Parking is a priority. Make sure that it's incorporated somehow in the overall scheme.
there's parking nearby right now because we have the new parking lots that were done. And so we've been spending time looking at points of access to the building. And I'm very concerned about the level of handicap accessible parking, which is a bit of a challenge on that part of campus. So we continue to bring parking up. The Algonquin project will be done probably a little bit ahead of the demolition of Adirondacks and Banks. And so we don't really know what's going to happen because they are considered two separate projects. So we're trying to figure out how do we marry the two projects together for a better outcome. But like, as Megan said, a lot of it is out of our control.
Yeah, it is out of our control, but it has, like I said, Bob Trombley is bringing a lot of this to their attention.
Not so much a question, but something that might be fun to share is the mural project. I was just thinking timing wise, if all goes well, it'll be done by the time that council meets in July. It should be done.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if I could or not. Yes.
We secured the money and the money's
Okay,
here, so
all right,
yeah,
so I'll
it's,
take-
it's in your court.
I'll take your direction from that then. So a fun project that fills my cup up that Ann and I have been working on is Anna secured donor funds for a campus mural that will hopefully be done in July, June, July. We are still working on securing the design of that mural, the artist, etc. But we are working with Julia Devine and Tanya Cribb from the museum to start that project. It's something that we're looking to do annually. So there's a great interest in that. As I oversee buildings and grounds on this campus, I walk around and see the great opportunity that we could add some life and color and vibrancy to this campus. So this is with Ann's help in the securing the donor funds. This is a way to do that. And just add some vibrancy to the campus. So so we're looking forward to getting that done. Hopefully early this summer.
We should.
Where will it be?
Yes, okay. So it will be on Hudson Annex. So if you're driving, go out to this flight here, turn right, and you're driving towards Kehoe and you see the pond and then you see Hudson Annex. That wall right there, we're looking to do that wall.
You can see it from the street,
So you can see it from the
but
street.
it's not gonna interfere with like the feeling of the pond. It's just gonna be that low wall. I think it's real cool the way it's, you know, the murals downtown have just been really wonderfully well received. So Outside Arts, which is Julia Devine and their individual, they're really the ones that are helping us make it happen on campus.
They're very excited about it. Ann and I have met with them a few times now, so they're very excited about this. And I hope it's a partnership that we can continue on in perpetuity to just vibrancy to campus.
The artist is a grandson of Dr. Angel. Which is kind of neat.
The artist is thank you, it's the
Yes.
same artist that did the astronaut mural downtown and then the actress mural downtown as well.
Jean Arthur.
Thank you.
Right.
I'm going to look forward to that. Thank you. We'll move on then. Is Kalima on? Therese, do you have a report from her? Okay. Then we'll move on to campus governance. Sandra had to leave. She said she didn't have anything important to share. Bridget, are you still on?
Is not.
She's not? Okay, we lost Bridget. Michelle's not here. Okay. Christy.
Hey, Christy.
Thank you. For the SEA report, I mentioned we're applying for another quality work life grant. And that is with the USA and CSEA partnership. There will be a recognition award. We will have a lunch held in June. And we have 30 members that qualify for this, according to their 2025 anniversary dates. We are in the process of planning member meetings. We will do on lunch member meetings, one this summer and one in the fall.
Our officers are attending CSEA conferences. Some are regional and some are statewide. Coming up at the end of this month, we have the Women's Conference. It's being held in Tarrytown. And then in June, we specifically have the SUNY Officers Conference that we will attend. That's in Long Island. And we are continuing to coordinate professional development. These are to help our CSEA members with skills such as Excel and Google, but they are open to the entire campus. Workshops for every employee to attend. And CSEA has designated May as Member Appreciation Month. And I was excited to share that I'm appointed to the CSEA statewide negotiation team for a 5-year contract.
Well, actually, congratulations. Oh, and condolences.
Yeah. Everybody's in Albany looking up. That's for my.
Great job. Good.
Heidi. So I see that Bridget, wrote some items in the chat.
Okay.
So I have them up here. Do you want me to read them?
Yes, please.
Okay, she said she had to leave at 1:50 today. Some things the Senate has accomplished, something that lasting, forensic psychology, new minor. Hospitality management minor, that's a new minor. A new certificate and Lean Six Sigma certificate. Office hours policy, academic policy, childcare assistant pre-apprenticeship. New micro credential. Multiple degrees for the last time, academic policy. Undergraduate degree requirements and updated academic policy. Graduate courses taken by undergraduates, replacing graduate courses policy, another academic policy. They are running, the Faculty Senate is running elections this week for the 3 faculty positions for the Academic Planning Committee. And we'll hold elections for next year's standing committee chairs on May 13th, and their annual organization will meet. The next Senate meeting is on May 6th at 3:30 in the on-site conference room or the.
Thank you. I guess if you have any questions, reach out to Bridget. Faculty's been busy. All right, any public comment? Any old business? I just have one thing, it's about an hour old, is I wanted to thank Sharice for organizing with Hal for our lunch over in the nest, and it was very nice for us to all be able to gather together, and the staff over there is just phenomenal. They are so patient and welcoming and friendly, so we really appreciated that opportunity. So,
Second that, they were amazing.
The other thing, well, any new business? I have a family obligation the whole week for graduation, including graduation, so I won't see you at graduation, and I'm sorry about that, but I always enjoy being there for that event. I will miss it. I think I even know somebody who's graduating. I couldn't give them, but so missed opportunity. So I will not see you until July at our retreat. And please, we already have 2 sessions. They're going fast. So if you have ideas, just please reach out quickly and I will pass them on to Sharice. And otherwise, don't forget that there is the self-guided tour of the BFA senior exhibition over in Myers in the Slatkin and Bird galleries, which I understand are upstairs. And then we'll all gather together over in the College Center for dedication of Meeting Room 1 in honor of Marty Mathis.
Thank you.
Yes.
So if you're visiting the BFA exhibit, you'll see some artwork with tags with little red dots on it. Those are the red dots that signify those pieces of purchased for the permanent collection.
Oh, thanks.
So some of them may show up in Hawkins Hall, and others may show up elsewhere in Canada.
Great. All right, I will then take a motion to. Oh, I'm sorry. Chris. Oh.
Sorry.
All All right, Chris made the motion to adjourn, second. Michael second, all in favor? All right. Yeah.
I read.
Did you see it? Oh, okay, okay.
That's a true.
Yeah.
I'm glad that they're back to a print location.
So right now, it's.
I have one, yeah, we get dropped off at the I get obligated to grab one as a cardinal.
So right now, it's.
You know.
Yeah, yeah, but.
Oh, how much is the?
Should I guys want to? Should I be there?
I would say.
You did.
Say.